imagine you step into a time machine and you're going 36 months, 3 years into a future, and you were to walk inside of that future, what does it look like? You start with the areas that you know for sure. And then from there, you paint the picture. What does it look like? What do I hear? How will I know I've arrived? Once you craft your vivid vision, one of the first questions I believe that you should ask yourself is, okay, who do I need to become in order to bring this vision forth?
Wow.
And that becomes the game that's worthy to play.
Hi, this is JP, and today we're going to be talking with Jennifer Hudye-Moscow, one of my close friends and probably one of the best coaches in the world when it comes to actually creating your vivid vision. And your vivid vision is basically your deepest why. It's your roadmap to everything that you actually want in life. And really, until you know what you want through a vivid vision, we can say we want money, we want this, but putting it together in a very concise, programmatic way, which is actually exactly what Jennifer teaches us, it's a game changer. I've done it for my business. I've done it personally. And it's become the roadmap to my life. So I think you're going to walk away from this episode with a framework of how to create your best life ever, your vivid vision, your why. And Jennifer, actually, if you listen to the episode, is going to actually give you some materials to work with. So if you feel a little stuck, you're not really sure, how do I get from like what's in my head to what's in my heart? What's the why that makes me cry? Jennifer's going to give you tips, and she's going to actually give you some free resources that usually would cost you about $25,000. Just as a friend and as a guest of mine. So I really hope you take advantage of these resources and enjoy the episode. Hi, this is JP Newman on Investing on Purpose. And here today we have Jennifer Hudye-Moscow. Jennifer, it is so great to have you with us today. I've been wanting you to come for a long time. As you know, with our show, we really talk about how do you bring your how and why together and being purpose-driven. And by being purpose-driven and knowing your why, how you can actually create outsized returns for your business. And, I talk in the past, I've had like big influencers in my life who have really helped me define my why, and you are one of them. So to have you here today with Vision Driven, really talking about the Vivid Vision, which is a best-selling book and an incredible process that I went through, a hard process, an arduous process to really get down to the why. I know a lot of times I talk about in my shows, like, finding your why is so important. But how do you find your why? And for a lot of people, it's like, I don't even know what that is. I get that all the time in my feedback. Like, we got the how, we got the business plan, we've got how we're going to do something, but how do I know my why? I'm numb. I don't even know what that means half the time. So a lot of this show, I explore the why. And when I met you a couple of years ago, I think it's been about 2-3 years ago that we met, just when I thought I was comfortable in my why, I thought I've done all this work. Now I can have a talk show, a podcast on this. And then I met you and I heard about what you did. And I read the book, Vivid Vision, by your partner, Cameron Harold. And I met you and I knew it was time for me to really make sure if I was in my why or not. And the process for me was really scary. So I'll talk about that more as we get further down here. But I have to say, like, just when you think you're comfortable with your why, you realize you can go so deep. And the deeper you're willing to go and do the work, I found for me, the more rewards that you create. But before I get too far on this, Jennifer, like, how did you even get into this work? And you are so good at it. Like, how did this come to you?
Yeah, well, first off, I grew up in a really entrepreneurial family. My father, my uncle, my grandfather, all three of my siblings, my cousins, grew up in a little farming town in Saskatchewan, Canada, but where the entrepreneurial spirit was very much ingrained into who I was and our way of being. My father, still to this day, says that we're hypomaniacs, which means the good kind of crazy.
Oh, good.
Yes, the good kind, right? And so early, I ended up going to college for management entrepreneurship, which was the biggest oxymoron on the planet. But then I ended up starting a company at first called Conscious Copy. And that at first, it was right out of college. I was bootstrapping my little business, team of one, had virtually was unknown in the space that I was in. But my intention with that was I wanted to help business leaders to craft their messaging and positioning around their marketing. And early on, I ended up having the pleasure of going for dinner. Two of my guy friends at the time who were also bootstrapping their businesses one of them found out that this entrepreneur named Cameron Harold was going to be in Phoenix for some sort of business event. And he just figured he would give it a shot and reach out to Cameron and see if he'd be open to going for dinner with three of us young aspiring entrepreneurs.
Which is a big deal because Cameron's like written many successful books. I got to meet him, but like he speaks on a lot of the stages around the world and is really an authority on like business leadership and management leadership and how to be a CEO. I've read many of his books. They're terrific.
Yeah. So he built $200 million businesses, coached the CEO of Sprint amongst many others, wrote a lot of books. And for whatever reason, he said yes. And so at that dinner, he asked me the question, tell me about your business. And at the time I was sort of dabbling though, still I had my copywriting business and then another business I was dabbling with. And he first looked at me and he was like, hey, have you ever tried to shit on two toilets at once? And I was like, wait, what? No, what? How did that get into the conversation? And I was like, no. And he was like, exactly. It would get messy. So he was like, choose one. You're young, double down. And what one are you going to choose? I was like, I have to choose right now. And he's like, yeah. So I said, I'm going to decide conscious copy. And he was like, great. Next question. Where do you see this company being in 3 years? What does it look like? And I was like, I have no idea. I literally just decided 2 minutes ago that.
I just picked one toilet.
Yeah. And he was like, well, just off the top of your head, imagine it's 3 years into the future. It all worked out. What does it look like? And I was like, well, I've built $1 million business. We're working with some of the top thought leaders in the online personal development space, people like Tony Robbins and Dan Sullivan and Joe Polish and Bulletproof Coffee. And a lot of these people, I'd studied their books or went to their events. And I have a team and we have an awesome company culture and we're known as the top company in whatever space we're in. He's like, great. Take all of that and go craft a vivid vision. And so he had written the book, Vivid Vision, and essentially it was a much deeper process on painting the picture of exactly what I wanted the company to look like 3 years into the future, as if it already happened. He seemed pretty smart, so I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do this. And I crafted my first ever vivid vision for conscious copy. And when I first created it, I was like, I felt like I was making it all up because I was like multi-million-dollar business. Like I have a small handful of clients right now. Right. At the time I was charging like $1,000 a month for like one-on-one work, but I just wrote it all down. And I started making decisions by it. I put it up in my kind of home makeshift office and I was reviewing it every day, started making decisions by it. And literally within 6 months, I started having the most wild opportunities show up in my life. One of the first ones was I ended up being at a Genius Network meeting, which is a group hosted by Joe Polish, who's like one of the most connected businessmen in our space.
Yeah.
And Genius Network ended up becoming a client of mine. And that was like a huge door opener that created this hockey stick growth in my business. And literally within less than a year, I was working with all of the top names that were in my vivid vision that I thought would take 3 years, if not longer.
Well, some are, like I know Tony Robbins was one of your clients. Like it's pretty incredible. Some of those you couldn't even get in a lifetime, and you just nailed them, which is incredible.
Yeah, built the multi-million-dollar business, had a team of 10, and I quickly became a believer in the whole vivid vision concept. Cameron ended up becoming a client.
Oh, how cool.
The matter of a few months of that initial business dinner. And he asked me if I would be open to partnering up with him and creating a little division as part of our company to help more entrepreneurs through this vivid vision process. Because really where my zone of genius and my team is being able to extract the complicated mind of an entrepreneur and all the ideas and insights and be able to organize it in a way that's very articulate and clear. And particularly with the vivid vision, it's one thing for the founder to see the vision, but if others don't see it too, it gets lost in translation.
Right.
So being able to align the team, recruit talent, have clarity when scaling up are all of the benefits of it. And so fast forward, that was over 8 years ago. My organization now focuses solely on this. We've helped over 600 companies one-on-one through the process, and then about 3,000 others through workshops that we do with like EO, YPO, Tiger 21 across the world.
Incredible. That is amazing. Going through the process, I talk about this a lot. I've been calling it the Starbucks exercise, which is kind of the beginning of the vivid vision. In fact, I'm going to have some more on this, but the Starbucks exercise is just to start. If you don't even know where to start and you're feeling numb, go to Starbucks, take an hour and start writing down what you want your life to look like. And I actually, from the vivid vision, I'm like, take 3, don't go beyond 3 years. I was like, from reading from Cameron, like 3 years, and just be as audacious as possible about what your life can look like. And that's always step one for me when people ask me for mentorship. And the reason for that is very much your story. We come so much from our head and limitations of why this may not work, or we try to think so far ahead. But stretching that muscle of manifestation and what you really want, and having cues in your body that are beyond your brain, is such an important muscle in business. It makes it a lot more fun, a lot more higher probability of success. And I think you were just the perfect story of that. Like, you literally manifested things that don't really, like Tony Robbins, I'm just writing for him. I got the guy, I went to his thing and now I'm his partner, and now taking this to the next level. My experience of you is you have a magic in taking complicated things, because I felt like this was like a 6-month process between us. And we wound up doing a vision both for me personally, and we did one for my company. And it took like 6 months from to start to finish. And you asked me a lot of questions and you just listened. And I felt like I was just blah, blah, blah for a long time. But then you have this incredible way of cueing it back in a very articulate, thematic way, where you're taking like things that seem very, like a little bit all over the place, that are important to me, and putting it in a really, really simple language. And I think that I'm going to share with you guys today the Thrive Vivid Vision. Alex is going to put it out there. And we might even give you, if I can talk Jen into it, a basic framework where you can start to even work on this, your vivid vision. But it's amazing that your end goal at the end of the day, Jen, it seemed like after all that work and everything that you're hearing, is you want to bring it back in a way that's bringing the essence of that person or that company in a very, very simple, like 36 months, but it's very emotionally driven. It's very it is very visual with the words that you use. And it's incredible to try to get that down. I have them. My personal one's in my office. It's poster size. So it's 24 by 24 by 36. And then I have the one here at Thrive, and it's for everyone to see. And it's to remind me, a lot of times I'll get on my phone, I'll start reading little sections of what I stand for. But thank you so much. Like, how do you get to that place, I guess, is the question. Like, you're hearing your clients talk a lot, insurance businesses, financial businesses, real estate businesses. What cues are you looking for? Because ultimately you need to get that down on a poster and get it down to the core of who they are.
Yeah. So I think like a big distinction between a vision statement, which is what a lot of companies do. And one of our goals is to replace vision statements with vivid visions worldwide, which is companies will, or even just individuals will attempt to go through a process and come up with a vision statement where you're finding all of these different buzzworthy words and like stringing them into a long drawn out sentence.
Right.
That's super generic. And it's like, we exist to help our customers live a better life so that they can feel happy.
Right.
And it's
Totally.
like any company could replace their name with that. But a vivid vision, it's really designed of, okay, imagine you step into a time machine and you're going 36 months, 3 years into a future, and you were to walk inside of that future. What does it look like? And in vivid detail, just start with, I always say, where do you start? Start with the areas that you know for sure. So when it comes to your culture, how do you see the team interacting? And how does everyone communicate? How does everyone deal with conflict? How does everyone work together to get shit done? What does the team look like? What are your customers saying about you? And you, in the vivid vision, and I'm happy to share the mind map with those listening, where you can answer the questions for yourself. But you start with the areas that you know for sure. And then from there, you paint the picture. What does it look like? What do I hear? How will I know I've arrived? And this is the layer that most people miss, is they'll just use elusive language. Oh, the sales team are rock stars. What does that mean? How do we know? Like, if we were to step in and see them acting as that, what would it look like? And so with the vivid vision, you pare it down. We have 12 key areas in the business, or 5 key areas in your personal life. But then for me, I recognize patterns. So it's being able to see, okay, what is the through line here of why the company exists, what they do and why they do it. That's essentially what it is. What do we do? Why do we do it? And the first part of the process is you got to just get everything out on the table. The example I give with clients is, it's like their brain is this really messy, like a messy garage that they have not cleaned in a really long time.
Yep.
So the first part of cleaning the garage is you got to take everything out, and you got to start to categorize it, and then be like, what stays, what goes, what is the most valuable here, and then go the layers deeper. And that was one of the things that we did with you, was keep going deeper into, okay, why is this important to you? Why is that important to you? And then usually you find that moment, and it's like the tearjerker, where you feel moved, and then that's where you've hit gold. But you got to do some digging to get there.
You also had me doing breath work, if I remember. Like there was a lot of things to scramble the mind, because the mind doesn't always want to feel. Like, I have to tell you, like, when I started mine with you, even the personal one, which I almost wanted to avoid the personal one with you and make it less personal, because I knew personal, especially at this point in my life, like, it's looking at everything. And then all of a sudden you're like, I think I'm doing everything. I'm sold that I'm doing everything right, but then I'm willing, like, to unpack that garage and really look deeper at the why, and really see it's very vulnerable to do that. It was kind of scary, to be honest, and intimidating. I'm glad I did it, but I'm like, what have I not told myself? What angles am I missing? And through my journey, I felt like, I guess, in the end of the day, I'm still here and doing real estate. I'm not a monk in Peru. So, I actually felt a lot of it was reaffirming, but then there was, like, what you said before. It's like, when you get even deeper into your why, the why that makes you cry, the why that kind of gets you there was little things that I saw that I could just do even deeper and better. And that was just, like, incredible. And to this day, we were talking at lunch today, like, my relationship with my business partners and how to bring those closer so that we're emanating the whole message of the company. Like, it starts within, like, so much is, like, moved, but it starts with intention and that unpacking. I noticed you didn't say, for the company, you said why we serve, I think is what you said. Why we serve. You said, who are we and why we serve?
What we do and why we do it.
Okay, so what we do and why we do it.
Yeah.
You didn't say how we do it.
No, because the how can change in a whole bunch of ways. And especially, I think in the world that we're in right now, it's accelerating faster and faster. And so some companies, they're going to stick with how they're doing things, but with other companies it may shift, but that core what and why should stay the same.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that, I work with lots of entrepreneurs, lots of CEOs. I do believe that starting with the personal vision is important, because so often I see the leader who builds their life around their business versus their business around their life.
Right. So their identity becomes the business, or a lot of what they identify as the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that kind of goes into the 3 stages of entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Can we talk about the 3 stages of entrepreneurship? I thought this was interesting. I could relate to this, and it's hard for a lot of people as I mentor, and share how you get to from the lowest to the most enjoyable. How do you see that as?
Yeah. So this is something I've studied over the last, again, about decade of working with entrepreneurs and just seeing how we operate. And I call it the 3 stages of entrepreneurship. It's an evolutionary process where being in stage 1 and being in stage 3 does not determine when it comes to revenue. For example, I know entrepreneurs that are still in stage 1 and have $100 million businesses. And I know entrepreneurs in stage 3 that have $10 million businesses
So it's
or
not,
a million.
right.
So it's more so this evolutionary shift. And as you're listening, just notice where you see yourself in this process. And so stage 1 is, I call it condition driven. And this is where we usually start our business from a place of insecurity. We build our business around our insecurities unconsciously. And so maybe you're the person who had a lot of instability as a kid. And so your fuel is kind of rooted in hunger and a fear of like, I'm going to make sure that I never have to live out that level of instability ever again. Or maybe you grew up and you had, you were like bullied a lot. And so it was like, I'm going to make sure that everyone who bullied me sees what a mistake they made. And I'm going to be, that powerful leader who knows how to captivate every room, that becomes like the popular company business. It could be, you're a chubby kid growing up and then you end up building a weight loss business and you have your abs all over your Facebook ads or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
For me, in my own story, it was, I never really felt seen and understood growing up by my father. And unconsciously, I ended up building one of the top messaging and copywriting agencies in the world that specifically helped male leaders with a really powerful message get their voice into the world.
Wow.
And I unconsciously even managed to get clients that were my dad's heroes to try prove to him like, hey, pay attention.
Wow.
I had no idea until I did. And I was like, whoa. And so there's nothing wrong with this, though. The gift in it is we get to kind of scratch that itch, but there's a certain point where that fuel no longer is satisfying. And that's where we shift to stage 2, which is we build our business for achievement. And it's this idea that the vision is outside of you. So you may be vision motivated of you set, okay, I'm going to build the $1 million business, the $10 million business. I'm going to have the nice car. I'm going to have the beautiful wife, or I'm going to live in the big house, but it's still chasing the carrot. This time it's just forward facing. Once I get there, then I'll be satisfied. Then I'll be able to relax. Then I will.
I know so many people in stage 2.
Yeah. And like to have extraordinary businesses, but there's always that feeling of, it's just a little bit further, a little bit more. I just need, like, it's in reaching distance, but they can never catch it.
Yeah.
And the gift in this, though, too, is usually this entrepreneur starts building their business from their gifts. They recognize where they're skilled and they double down on that. But they're still scratching this itch that they can't seem to satisfy.
Well, you make a good distinction. One's in the past, one's in the future, but none of that so far is in the present.
Yes. And that's really stage 3.
I was going to say, I bet you that takes us to stage 3.
Yeah, which I call, vision driven, hence the name, or mission driven. And it's this idea that we don't go to our vision, we come from our vision. And you'll know this it's the entrepreneur that is they have some sort of the hill that they're willing to die on. They have a mission that's so important to them. And they actually don't care if there's competitors. They look at it as like they're going for their own personal best versus to dominate the competition. And when they see others in their field doing something similar, they look at that as good news because they're like, we need more people focused on this greater mission. It's not to say they're not competitive, but there's something much bigger that's driving them. And every day it's more so, am I showing up and am I serving this mission in this sort of way? And it's not just the entrepreneur who's, okay, I'm going to go and give clean water to countries that don't have it. Maybe it could be, but I also have clients that they're vision driven kind of goal is they want, they hit their peak of a satisfying life. And now I want to make sure every one of our employees lives the life that they're designed to live here. And so they're all about creating extraordinary company culture.
It's incredible.
Or changing the way certain industries are operating. But you could tell it's coming from the now. They don't go to the vision, they come from the vision every day. They're serving it and they're inspired and they're excited no matter what they're working on.
Why do you think it's so important, like from a perspective, to be leading or running a company from a vision rather than to a vision? Like, what is that? What is the benefit of that, would you say, from what you've seen from your clients?
I believe since the beginning of time, as humans, we're motivated towards being part of something much bigger than ourselves. And there was actually a study that was just done by Harvard that said that 86% of, I think it was 86% or 76% of employees right now don't feel connected to what the company, the company that they're currently working for, what they're doing and why they're doing it. And when you don't have something that's a collective future that everyone's working towards, then people aren't as motivated to show up. They don't feel connected to something bigger than themselves. They're not willing to overcome challenges and circumstances. And decision making is a lot more complicated. So directly for the entrepreneur, I oftentimes say, when you know what your vision is, you can discern what is aligned to the vision and what is a seductive distraction. Because entrepreneurs' greatest gift is we see opportunity everywhere. Our greatest kryptonite is we see opportunity everywhere. And so if you don't have a clear North Star to filter opportunities from, then you just keep unconsciously creating more of the same. Maybe it's a little bit bigger, but it's just more of the same. We need, in order to break our pattern of familiarity, we need something bigger to pull us forward.
I agree. You've articulated, I feel it in my gut when you say it's like to be true. And I think that humans are wired to serve. And that doesn't mean you can't make money. In fact, the whole point of the show is you can be a great conscious capitalist. But I think for me, in my own journey, when there's nothing, it's very dry to me. It's very dull if it's about money and there's no purpose involved with it. I've gone through the pain of that, of just like having the things. And I think all the craziness in the world, it keeps the world entertaining, but people who crash their Lamborghinis, celebrities who go off the rocker, it's because they've got so circular. To your point, they're just doing the same thing again and again and again, and they can't get out of the loop because it's kind of all about them versus like actually serving something. I would argue that it's very selfish and selfless when you're part of a communal thing, because that brings us the greatest joy as humans. It just feels innate and just the way we're built. I actually have to tell you that as I'm talking, I feel a little guilty right now because I'm actually going through in my head my corporate vivid vision. And I made some commitments a year ago when we did it, partly because I could make an excuse and say it was a slower real estate market, but we made some commitments that I feel like I could still do a better job of coming through again. And which is my point of like, it's one thing to create the vision, and then it's the other thing, to your point, where you have to actually stay on target. So if you create this beautiful poster, you don't want to become wall art. You actually have to remember. And I just remembered that I forgot some of the things that I pledged that I was remembering as you were speaking. So it's a good reminder. This work isn't just a process of birth. It's taking the time, figuring out what is your mission, your personal mission, the mission for your company. And then it's a discipline. It's actually like, this isn't like happily ever after. You got to work to craft that thing.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is by Wallace Wattles, and it's, "By thought, the thing you want comes to you. By action, you receive it." And so I recently had a conversation with an entrepreneur, and it was a woman who was like, "I don't know that I want," she was having a lot of resistance to the process. And I was like, "Tell me more." And she's like, "Well, I did this kind of process once before, and like none of it came true." And I'm like, "Well, what did you do to make it come true?"
Right.
That's part of the game. And so immediately, once you craft your vivid vision, one of the first questions I believe that you should ask yourself is, okay, who do I need to become in order to bring this vision forth.
Wow.
And that
Wow.
becomes the game that's worthy to play, because at the end of the day, you know, if you show up then every single day and say, who do I got to become? What skill sets do I need to develop? Who do I need to network myself with? What limiting beliefs do I need to overcome? What actions do I need to do on a regular basis? You're going to start getting closer to the direction of the vision. It's like if you say, okay, we're going to go on a cross-country trip from Austin to San Diego, you're not going to get there if you don't get in the car and start driving. And so, yeah, the game is you got to start taking that action every day,
Yeah.
going in the direction that you want to go.
How do you do it personally? How do you do it? Because I know you're a very disciplined, process-oriented person. How do you do it? Like, what keeps you motivated? And also, what cues you to the right question that keeps you on target with your vision?
Yeah. So as far as creating the vision or showing up every day?
Implementing the vision.
Yeah. So once I have my 3-year vivid vision.
And you just redid yours, you said, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I take my 3-year vision, and then similar to the, you know, a process of kind of strategic planning in business, I do the exact same thing for myself. So every year, usually December, I sit down and I map out what I call my 1-year focus. And I ask, okay, what is this year about for me? And what are the top 3 areas of my 3-year vision that I'm committed to bringing into existence? So I actually replaced the words goals with commitments.
Wow.
Because goals, it's like, that's outside of me. Like, maybe I'll make it, maybe I won't. Commitments is I'm committed to making this happen by the end of the year. And so I map out what the commitment is in what category, and then what is my game plan around that, and then how will I know that I've arrived to that. And then from there, I do the same process every single quarter. But it's much simpler, where I just transfer from those 3 areas. Okay, over the next 90 days, what am I committed to creating in order to make sure that I'm on track to that 3-year vision? So for example, this year, one of my areas of focus, this year, a lot of it is about adventure for me. So it's like, I want to go on a minimum of 2 bucket list trips this year. And so it was already starting to map out, okay, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? How am I going to set things up even on my calendar to make sure that I could support that? And we're in August of recording this, and went to Japan for my birthday. My husband, Alex, and I went to Necker Island and led Vision Amplifier on Richard Branson's Necker Island.
Awesome.
Which was a spontaneous one. And then we went to Europe for our honeymoon, to Greece and Portugal. But that came with intention of like, okay, where would we love to go? Do the same thing with my health, right? And come up with a clear game plan that's going to support the vision.
It's great. So is this a daily practice, a weekly practice, a monthly practice? What does this practice look like?
Yeah. So once I have that my quarterly focus, I literally it's a 1-pager, and I put the 1-pager on my mirror where I get ready in the morning, and then one in my office. And when I'm in the mornings, when I'm brushing my teeth, and at night, I'm reviewing it,
Awesome.
just so I'm priming my brain. And then next to my desk in my office, I'm looking at it too. And so I'm also...
Same list, same thing, just 2 places?
Yep.
Great.
So it's top of mind. And every month I'll set, okay, what are things that I want to focus on this month? And I pour them in my calendar. So from the month, it's calendar creation, because your calendar is your number 1 tool for transformation. If it's in the calendar, you're likely going to do it. So
sometimes might it be like, I'm going to take an hour to research bucket list places, and you throw that in the calendar kind of thing.
Yep. And then I am like such a weirdo with all this, but and then every Sunday I do something I call my Sunday ritual. I've done it every single Sunday for the last 8 years and 8 months. And I've maybe missed 12 Sundays total over those 8.5 years. But I sit down and I reflect on my week and what are the wins that happened from the week, and I journal it out. I score myself in all my key areas of my life on a scale of 1 to 10. Why I gave myself that score, what would make it a 10. And then I review my quarterly focus and I ask, okay, what from this am I focused on this week? And I then plug everything into my calendar for the upcoming week. And that is the way that I'm able to, for the most part, keep bringing my vision to life. That's
Wow.
from like the 3D level. And if you keep showing up there, then I feel like there's,
The world will support you once you put it out there. Once it's in your intention and you're clear, and you just don't. A lot of it is just kind of like not apathy and just entropy of just kind of forgetting. I mean, I realize like life goes on,
yeah,
and it's easy to get comfortable or whatever and just kind of forget or what have you. And like you said, there's such a difference between a goal versus like this is a have to. It's like commitment versus a goal.
yeah. Yeah,
Right?
and yes, and a difference between a plan and a vision. A lot of people will say 3-year plan. It's not a plan. If you know exactly how something's going to happen, it's a plan, not a vision. So when you're creating your vivid vision, you should actually have no idea how you're going to make most parts of it happen. And that's actually good news because then it's going to require you to grow into someone that you've never been before. And that, again, that's so much the game that's worth playing.
Creative, scary, the unknown, right? The unknown. You know, I've never known how I just know that you're one of the most spectacular people at like process and structuring. Even today we're at lunch, we're going through our own process with vivid vision and money filling the vivid vision. And you're just always prepared and so thoughtful. And I think a lot of people, and it is a discipline to go sit there and do that on a Sunday. I'm watching Netflix a lot of times on Sunday. I just finished Umbrella Academy, which was great. But like that, I really, and it's good. It's like that discipline. And then it's almost like you were saying, like the intention and the discipline, and then watch the magic happen is is kind of what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, it's like do your part, do your part, and then life will do its part
Yeah.
100% of the time. But if you're not doing your part or you're sort of half-assing it, life is going to meet you right there in your level of
How do you
attention.
motivate yourself? If it's let's say it's a Sunday, like, you know, and you're just like, I don't feel like doing it this Sunday. Like you said, there's only been 12 Sundays. Like, what keeps you disciplined and motivated? Is it the results? Like, because that's a lot. I think for most of us, like, just like, how do we stay motivated, especially with this, because you don't always see the results every week. Like you're
Yeah.
building this vision way out there. You're not necessarily knowing every week. You're not getting the affirmation that you're getting closer. So what keeps you motivated to keep doing it?
With a process like this, at this point, I think with any habit, there's a tipping point where it's a habit. You're like, it's kind of like, well, what keeps you
Meditating
brushing your teeth every day, or
right.
like taking a shower every day, and you're just like, well, I just do it. But okay, what's that point to get to the tipping point? And depending on what it is that I'm trying to implement in my life, sometimes it's a little bit different. But at the end of the day, I need accountability. So can I be accountable to myself in doing the thing that I say I'm going to do? And I think that's a trained skill in itself. Is like healthy will.
Healthy will.
Being able to command yourself to do something and doing it, and you're going to build so much trust within yourself. But like, for example, a few months ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to meditate a minimum of 30 minutes a day, no matter what. And for whatever reason, I was struggling with it to follow that command. And so then the next question I asked was, well, who can I reach out to that will support me in accountability? And so I reached out to one of my best friends who's like also super disciplined. I'm like, hey, I want to commit to this. Will you commit to something? Maybe there's something every day that you want to do, and every day we're going to check in with each other. And just that alone had me start doing it every day, because not only did I want to not break my word with myself, but I didn't want to do it with her either. So find that accountability, find the way in which you're going to do it no matter what. So for some people, it's like, if I pay someone to show up, a personal trainer, I'm going to do it because that person's being paid and they're going to show up, to meet me there. Set yourself up to win. You don't always have to rely on willpower at the beginning.
Yeah. That's incredible. I appreciate that. I think a lot of times, I think it's human nature, and I know I do it sometimes, where you kind of compromise with yourself. And then I love the word you used, which is trust. Like, how do you establish trust with yourself if you kind of are, and is it worth it? And I think that, I'm sure you've done, you said 3,600 clients and 3,000 visions. It's like, I think a lot of people assume that a vivid vision means you have to make 10 million, you got to climb a mountain. But a vivid vision can be anything. It's just like really tapping in, I imagine, to like what really is your God-given purpose on this planet, big or small, profit, nonprofit. Like, you've seen so many visions. Do you see a theme in these visions? Are they really all over the place? And like, what do you see?
Yeah, there's some core things no matter what, whether it's the personal or the business. Personally, everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to wake up
And feel good.
feel good throughout their day, energized, feel a sense of peace, satisfaction. Everyone wants to have healthy, thriving relationships. Now, the content of that can look different, but as a whole, being present, business, it depends. And I feel like we could go into the topic of just determining what aspects of the business are also serving your lifestyle, and it's important to know what that is. And then when it comes to a company across the board, everyone wants to work with people that they enjoy working with. Everyone wants to build some sort of product or service or of the clients that we work with, that genuinely helps people, and they can see that. And everybody wants a culture that the team is working really hard for some sort of greater good. And then again, the specificity
Those are really
of that,
important things. I'm not sure if that's obvious. It's actually, as you say it, it's interesting. A lot of greater good, a lot of cooperation. Humans like to know why they're going to work for a purpose, and like their teammates, connect for a greater good, a product that's relevant, a service that's actually relevant.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them aren't. You know, they're just kind of. Let me ask you a question. I know this could probably seem like a really long, arduous process, but if someone was to start on the first path of just saying, hey, look, I say it's the Starbucks exercise, but if you and I had just met for the first time, or if you met advice to the audience, how do I get out of my head? How do I start to feel my why and get past, like, how would I even explore this concept of a vivid vision? Like, what's step one?
Yes. Step one is what I call get in a vision state. And what that means is go somewhere that feels inspiring to you, to carve 2 hours to start this process. So whether that's Starbucks, whether that's your favorite hotel lobby bar, whether that's going on a hike and being somewhere in nature, or the beach, or somewhere in the mountains after skiing, but somewhere that you're not in the environment of your day-to-day triggers. And from there, usually like nature in itself, if you have some sort of process to just relax your mind, whether it's meditation or breath work, my husband, Alex, and I, which you've experienced a lot of our vision amplifier breath work, it is designed of like in 10 minutes to just get you in a state where you're relaxed, open, awake. But you can do that just by going for a walk in nature or something.
But I have to admit, the breath work really accelerates. So we talked about this today. Like, the breath work is magic. And a lot of times, I know with me, we would even start a session. We would always breathe first before we'd even start talking. And I imagine that's for you, is like, let's quiet the mind a little bit so we can actually get to the core of what's important. Exactly.
And the reason why that's important is because your current state of mind has created your current reality. And if you don't take the time to shift your state, you're just going to create more of the same, but bigger. So if you're frustrated, pissed off, anxious,
you'll make it worse.
Yeah. So getting into this, from parasympathetic or a sympathetic to a parasympathetic state where you're relaxed is really key. So that's step one. And then step two is, I'd be happy to share our Vivid Vision Mind Map. For those of you listening, you can just go to vividvisionmindmap.com and download all of the questions that you can start to ask yourself.
Amazing.
Around this process.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
Yeah, and it's totally free. You can download it. You can have it on your iPad or print it out. But the overarching question in all of it is, okay, imagine it's December 31st, 3 years into the future, and you're reflecting back. What do you see? And if you could have it all your way, what does it look like as if it's already happened? And just start to paint the picture of what you know for sure. In the mind map, we go into the categories. So what do you see for team, culture, your core business activities, sales, marketing, media, and it asks follow-up questions, but just start to fill up a list of what you know for sure.
I love that. And looking at the key categories.
Yeah.
Obviously, personal would be relationships, money, health, all that good stuff.
Yeah, investments is the big one.
Yeah.
And I believe the most important question that you can ask yourself, I learned this from a mentor, Mary Morrissey. A lot of people think it's why or what do I want? I believe the most important question we can ask ourselves, which is kind of step 3, is what would I love? What would I love? So it kind of just cuts through the noise.
It does, doesn't it?
Especially of the ego. It's like, okay, I want 3 Lamborghinis, but like, what would I really love?
I love
it's
that.
Like, man, I would love 3 months out of the year to take time off, to work on creative projects that light me up, to go on vacations with my family, to, take my kids to do extraordinary adventures that are going to teach them how beautiful this world is. Like, that's what I would actually love. I'd like a Lamborghini too. Yeah, I want that. But like, this is what, so it'll just help you kind of like get to the core.
I think that's really beautiful. I don't really like, what would I love? It's such a powerful question to ask versus what do I think I need? Because what you think you need is endless. Like, I promise you, once you get that, there's always the next thing, and someone's got a bigger one. Coming from Miami, I was just like, the cars, I'm laughing, the cars and the showmanship and the sneakers. It's like, so like to really, and as we know, if it's, what do I need? It's endless.
It's also rooted in scarcity.
It is.
Yeah. What do I need is sort of rooted in scarcity.
It is.
Or also,
because it's a scarcity, because you're asking the question, what do I not have now?
Yeah.
So I got to have this. And you're always forward thinking. It keeps you out of your present.
Yeah. Or a quick example or story is, I was leading an entrepreneur through a process similar to the one I took you through. And part of it is this expander session where we really unpack the vision. And I kept hearing him, he had built, I think it was like a $30 million technology company. And I could just tell this guy was so stressed out. And every question I was asking him, he was like, well, this is what we should do. This is what we got to do to be strategic. And this is what has to happen. But you could just tell there was so much heaviness connected to it. And I was like, hey, listen, I get that every business, you got to be strategic, but I'm going to go on a whim here. We're crafting your vision. Your future is literally your real estate. You get to design this how you want. Would you really love this? And he looked at me like I was full of shit. And he was like, love it. And I was like, listen, you are about to dedicate the next 3 years of your life, your time, your money, your energy, your frustrations, the calls you pick up late at night, the emails that you got to craft are all based around bringing this to life. Let's make sure that you don't arrive and you end up in a golden jail cell, which you created for yourself. So you build it, you get there, and you built yourself this golden jail cell. So let's go back to the question again, like, what would you love? Turns out for him, he was like, I would love to sell this business.
Wow.
I'm like, great. Well, let's then focus on your personal vision, and then let's come up with a game plan around this.
I know so many people I think have built golden jail cells.
Me too.
Because they're not following what they love.
Yeah.
Too many. It amazes me because there's, you see all these people like that have achieved the wealth, but it was one dimensional. It was not 4-dimensional. It didn't have community, passion. It didn't include anything of what they loved. I think that's a really good distinction. Well, a couple of things. I know we're gonna be wrapping up here soon, but I want to ask you. So, of all the clients that you've seen, 600 people you've dealt with, what's predictable for you of who's going to succeed at this? What are the characteristics of those who succeed versus those who get it and those who just can't seem to get to their vision? I mean, do you have a sense of what that is?
Yes. So those who succeed are willing to ask themselves the hard questions and sit in the uncertainty of what the answer may be. And those that don't succeed with the process go surface level, and they really approach it from this intellectual Rubik's cube that they got to figure out.
Yeah.
That there's only one right answer to. and they get really caught up in the how. Those are the key distinctions. Because going back to the first one, I see with a lot of people, oftentimes they're confused around what they want. I believe that most confusion is a really convenient cover-up for avoidance.
I agree.
And so it's much more convenient to be confused than to know. I would say the other big thing that I see is people will avoid the knowing because they're afraid of the responsibility of the knowing.
Wow.
And so
That's a big one.
being able to sit in the uncertainty of all of that and be like, I'm willing to get to what truly feels like aligned to me as an individual, which can be scary, but always worth it. And like most of the time, the clients that I work with, they're not saying, oh, I'm going to sell everything, grow a ponytail, get, earrings and, leave my family. No, because at the end of the day, your vision, one of the first questions once our clients craft their vision is, does this align with your core values? And if it doesn't, we got to keep working on it. And if it does, then great.
Wow. Well, Jennifer, I really appreciate it. Like I tell you, it's bringing up a lot in me too, because I still think there's areas where I can do better. Like I think I've got a lot working, but I'm like, I could go deeper with those questions. Like I can see you get comfortable, and it's great to get comfortable. And life's all going good, but no, I think you've motivated and rallied me to kind of engage a little deeper. Maybe I'll have you as my accountability partner on some of these things.
Totally, I would be happy to.
And next time we talk, because there's gonna be a part 2 to our conversation. I love the idea that you and I, kind of by accident, is because we're friends, this idea of how do you take the money mystic and how do you demystify money and add it to the vivid vision. So now once you actually birth your vision, now let's go into how you're gonna fuel it with currency.
Yes.
And then how do we complement that plan with currency so that every time you have a win with currency, it's not some flat win of like, oh, look, this credit went into my bank, but it's like, wow, that got me that 2-month trip that I wanted to take, with my kids. That money came in. And I'm in this process myself right now of this idea of like, how can I take currency of receiving and giving and feeling it even deeper? Because I think for a while, complacency is easy as a human. For a while when real estate was going good, I mean, checks were rolling in. You try to stay really grateful, but I think it got complacent because ultimately I didn't have a vision. It was a number and a goal. And I was happy the investors got a great return. I knew it was good for my family. Like it wasn't a bad thing. But now I think I'm challenging myself is, could you literally, like on a regular basis, can you give money and receive money in this very flowy way where there isn't scarcity? And every time you do it, it evokes this deep emotion of whether it's gratitude, joy, a vision that leads you to the emotion more regularly, so that every win, which is giving or receiving, comes with this beautiful bubble of like an emotion behind it and not just a transaction. And so that's kind of what I'm up to right now. And it's so obvious to me that anchoring what your work about the deepest of whys, your soul, what you love. So why don't we anchor what you love with the fuel it's going to basically be the support, the anchor, the foundation that's going to get you to what you want to love, and make a really detailed plan so you really know you're on par on both sides. That sounds really fun. So I'd love to kind of.
Me too.
So we're in a process. When it's time, maybe we'll complete our process. We'll write it down and we can share that with the audience.
Yes.
And
we're kind of systematizing it right now.
We are.
Can I share like the one extra piece from today?
Yeah.
Like, so literally we were at lunch today and I've crafted my next 3-year vision and came to JP being like the money mystic. And I was like, okay, I have some goals that are going to serve this vision financially. And so then he walked me through a process of, okay, well, what exactly is going to fund this vivid vision? What is that number? And so I mapped out the number. Now we're able to reverse engineer for the next 3 years. Okay, it's a lot more tangible of exactly how I am going to get there.
Yeah.
But we didn't start coming up with the how until I was crystal clear on the vision and what it was all for.
Correct.
And so as we're in this process, we'll share the learnings of it for all of you, because I think whatever stage you're in, There's always whatever was your ceiling is now your floor.
Yeah.
Life is always seeking to express greater versions of itself through you. And you're probably going to need money to do it,
Probably.
to make the greatest impact and also live an extraordinary life.
Right. And by that, when you hear that too, it doesn't mean you have to be a multimillionaire. It means whatever I love when Justin Donald was on our podcast and he said he knew when he made his first 300,000 that he was a wealthy man. At the time, that's all he needed to know he was a wealthy man. So I think so much of it's in our brain because whatever our dreams are, some of our dreams are very simple. Some of them are, I want to circumnavigate the earth, and some are just simply, I want to take a vacation, whatever it is, just having the money to that you are being supported with that dream, no matter how big or small, I think is what it's about. But I'm having so much fun with you on this because what I'm realizing is we are reverse engineering how financial planners show me what you got, show me your assets, show me your net worth. We're doing the exact opposite. We're going to the vivid vision, and now we're reverse engineering, and it is a blast. So we'll continue this. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today, your heart, your vision. I've definitely learned a couple great things today. I know I got some homework to do. So thank you, Jennifer, so much.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode with Jennifer. She is just about one of my favorites and so respected as just a master at figuring out whys. I think that this conversation really is important. What you're going to see from us soon is that some of these Investing on Purpose podcasts are going to go live. And Jennifer is one of those that I'm going to tag to go live with, because what I really see here is that in order to really invest with purpose, and to really understand the value of money, what money is, you need someone like Jennifer so that you know the why of what you want in your life and how money can feel and basically be your fuel and your currency to create that for you. What you're going to see pretty soon is if you're in my investor community or if someone close to my community, we're going to hand select an audience to actually be for a live taping of Investing on Purpose. It's going to be here in Austin, Texas. And if you're interested, reach out to us and we can tell you more about that. But it's going to be fun going forward. You're going to have some formats that'll be live with a Q&A from the audience. And I just think that creates more energy, more perspective. And if you see our lineup of who's coming up, you're going to be excited. As always, we've got some of the most amazing thought leaders in the world coming to share their stories and hopefully creating value for you. Enjoy it.